Comic exposure begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Comic Exposure Podcast. My name is Josh, and with me is my skeletal Pegasus, my hell horse, the one, the only.
Wonder Woman, what is the secret of your powers? Travis Ratz here.
Welcome to Comic Exposure, where Travis Ratz and I dive deep into graphic novels and trades. It's a book club, but with comics. We're like Oprah, but we're middle-aged white guys. Here we go, Travis. We recently dove into Absolute Batman for Batmanuary, as I dubbed it. What did you call it? I don't remember what you called it.
I don't know. I definitely made fun of your Batmanuary.
You did. And we just finished up some Western comics, and we said, okay, we got to find something. What's our transition into, as we move on to find some other books. And we thought, you know what? We're not monthly comic book guys or weekly. We're not weekly comic book guys. We're not in. There goes something.
I reject your label. I'm so upset. I'm throwing things.
We don't read like weekly comics, but we know that these things are selling. So I've heard that this has kind of been some big selling points for DC, this new lineup, this new universe of Absolute Comics. And so we decided, you know what? Let's just we dipped our toe into the Absolute pool. Let's go up to the waist. Let's go up to the waist a little bit. See if we can handle it.
Yeah, Nate, I want to talk to you about Absolute. Is this like a Scott Snyder vision? Like, is he kind of like the puppet master behind like the Absolute titles, the Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and then they have a Martian Manhunter?
Here's the deal, Travis. That would mean that I would have to do any sort of research for the show, and you know that we don't do research for the show. I don't think that Scott Snyder is. I mean, if he is, maybe. But I think reading this. And then having started to read Absolute Superman, although I think they become connected as the series go on, this does not feel like it's necessarily in the same world as that Absolute Batman. Although they were coming out in the same time, they don't touch right off the bat that I thought synergy, Ultimate World, right? Like if we think of this as like their version of Marvel's Ultimate Universe, right? This is their new universe they're doing. I think the one thing, as we talk about this, that it might have in common with that Batman book is that it's darker. But not really
darker. Well, Josh, I did do a little research. So
right now,
and by a little bit of research, I mean bare minimum research. And so I do want to correct you on that one. I don't know if this is where you're going. I don't want the fans. They are crossing over.
Absolutely. They are.
Oh, okay.
But they're not like right now. I know they're in the same universe. That's been a big piece. But they're like right now in the issues that we've read so far of Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah.
They haven't touched.
That's true. And so in that way, it's different than Black Label. Because Black Label is kind of just like a one-off reimaginings. And this seems kind of like alternate universe. It's like butterfly effect. Like if one thing happened in each of these, the holy trinity of DC's early lives, how would that affect who they are as a hero?
Yeah.
And what? Wonder Woman? Oh, you know what I'm going to say my thesis? Wonder Woman? Not that much.
Travis, I want to talk about that when we get into this story. But so what we've got is this take on Wonder Woman. It's Absolute Wonder Woman. Kelly Thompson, Hayden Sherman, Mattia de Ilias, and Jordi Belair. The always amazing Jordi Belair on colors. We got two different artists on here, which is kind of the back issues. So this is 7 issues. It felt like the first 5 were the story, and then it feels like Hayden Sherman maybe needed a break, and so Mattia de Ilias is kind of like that fill in. And so the one that Travis, you and I have talked about before, like when we have an artist that kind of steps in the middle of something, in the middle of a thing. It's nice when it's not the concurrent story. So we think about the one that I always go to, Why the Last Man. Right? Because whenever you got that other artist in Why the Last Man, it was like, oh, here's a flashback, right? So this is also, hey, we're going to tell this flashbacky part of the story.
Like a bottle episode.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of that way of using a fill-in artist.
I'm going to say there's 3 artists on this because in the volume that we read, which is available for free on Kindle if you have the unlimited subscription, is maybe one of my favorite parts of this first volume. Lil Diana.
Lil Diana. I believe. Oh man, who is that artist?
Which is Kelly Thompson, Dustin.
Dustin Nguyen
and Becca. Nguyen. Sorry.
Yeah, Dustin Nguyen. He did an image book with, I want to say, Jeff Lemire that I really enjoyed. Outer Spacey. I can't remember what it's called. But that's a
great name for a book right there.
Outer Spacey,
Outer Spacey. That is totally like a little comic short that you'd write. Just Outer Spacey.
Outer Spacey. It's all Spaceman Spiff. That's all it is. It's just.
Oh, gosh! Stop giving these ideas away for free. We do need a Spaceman Spiff revival.
It's my take on.
Would take his iron grip off of Calvin and Hobbes and let someone else do something with it.
I'm just going to rip it off. It's not going to be Calvin. It's going to be Melvin.
Spaceman Spliff, man. What you smoking, Spaceman? Nothing, Hobbes. I ain't smoking nothing. I want to mansplain to you absolute Wonder Woman, Josh, from the beginning.
Oh, okay, tell me a tale, Travis Rats.
We're in the deep bowels of hell. Like on a little island.
It is the year 2026, and we are indeed in the deep bowels of hell.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Hell makes you sneeze.
Demons.
Extra pepper.
Okay. One more coming up there. There should be a sneeze button. We don't have that kind of podcasting equipment. We're off the rails here. I'm trying to find the name of the island in hell that we open up on.
Hell Island.
Hell Island.
It's really just the Isle of Hell. That's
the Isle of Hell. Yes, I think it's what it is. Okay,
it is. Yeah.
So the instead of being born, instead of growing up, Diane of Scaramouche with her fellow Amazon warriors, she, as a child, is banished to hell.
Because they've killed all of the Amazons, right? That's the idea.
Killed them. Zeus is like, and they've killed the word. They banished it. It's canceled. You can't say Amazon. It's like beep. And also, Josh, the word beep. And of course, we can't forget our 90s favorite beep. Beep. It's like that. You can't say Amazon. And so this baby Diana is given into the hands of Circe. I'm like, is it the same as the Game of Thrones character?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Circe, who is typically in real world Amazon like a rival, a nemesis to Wonder Woman, but here is a mother figure. So Diana is raised on this little hell island and, adopts like the powers of Circe and like how to do witchcraft and use hell magic. And our Absolute Wonder Woman first 5 issues take us into her first foray into the real world, which is Gateway City, which I'm guessing is like San Francisco, right?
That's what it feels like.
Where she has to stop some kaiju, Josh, which I was like, ooh,
right?
Josh is going to be all about this kaiju.
A really great, we'll get to art a little later, but just great monster design. Great monster design in these issues. I thought they were super fun monsters. So we get the story of how she grows up on the island and the story of her saving the world for the first time, right? Like her
debut.
coming. Yes, she's a debutante, if you will.
I was going to say a debutante, her quinceañera, if you will.
Yes, and she's in the world. We get her connection to Steve Rogers in the flashbacks. We get her arm being chopped as she sacrifices her arm to save Steve Rogers and send him back from the dead.
Arm for a hero.
Right? She has a giant Final Fantasy VII sword that just becomes more giant and more giant. You're like, I don't know what that is, Josh, but There are some nerds that are listening, and they're like, "Ooh,
That's
yeah,
true.
she
It
does."
wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite aesthetic addition to this book.
She does have a Buster sword, is what someone says, and it's gigantic. So my question for you is, and I think part of why this doesn't feel so different for me, as
I know what you're gonna say,
is I haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really. I mean, I've read some of the George Perez run. I was like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to read the George Perez stuff. So I went back and read that. Not a lot of it, but some of it. The one that I remember the most of is I read probably
Dead
Earth, but I read 6 volumes of the New 52 Wonder Woman, which
6 volumes.
Yeah,
not issues, volumes.
Yeah. So I read the New 52 run, which is really good. It's Azzarello. It's Chang. Chang is the one who did all of the art for the girls in the future. And they ride their bikes around. Paper Girls. There we go. They deliver something house to house. What are they called? So that book, I really enjoyed that. But that was also the New 52 retelling of Wonder Woman, right? So the Wonder Woman that I've had the most exposure to is this retelling in the New 52, which was very heavily influenced by Greek gods, right? Like that's what it was very based in that Greek mythology. So reading this didn't feel all that different. I know that she's raised by someone different. She's in hell, but it didn't feel. She's still powered by love, right? Does that make sense? Like Wonder Woman being this of the Trinity, being the one who sacrifices, the one who uses the power of like compassion and connection. That's still here, except we just gave her witch powers. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I really enjoyed kind of this take on it, but it didn't feel as vastly different as I think like reading that Batman felt like, what the heck, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think that's really where I started to, after the maybe like issue 3, where I was like, okay, what are they saying here? Why does this exist? Right. And in a certain sense in Batman as well. And it'll be interesting to see, because spoiler alerts, Josh and I are going to do Absolute Superman next. If we like it, we might shell cash and do some Martian Manhunter, which the art looks awesome in that.
That's a beautiful part of this. These 3 books were free on Kindle. So what fuels the Comic Exposure podcast? Cheap comic books.
And by free, we mean we pay like a monthly subscription for Kindle Unlimited. So don't be knocking on our doors when you have to pay. Anyways, it is this idea. It kind of goes back to that nature versus nurture argument. Is what has a bigger influence over someone's life, the environments and people they are encounter as in their formative years.
I wonder, is that the treatise? Is that the treatise of these stories, right?
Well, let's go back to Batman. Like Batman, yeah, pretty much so. I mean, he goes about in a slightly different way where he's much more aggressive and violent, but his driving force to do good seems to be in his nature, and vengeance seems to be in his nature, even though in that one he still had his mother, so it wasn't an absolute quote unquote a tragedy on there. I guess it's a tragedy if you lose one of your parents in an awful killing. But so more so in this one, I really felt it because a Wonder Woman's goodness is unwavering. In fact, I feel like it even takes a front seat more in Absolute Wonder Woman because her environment she grows up in is hell.
Yeah, it's the juxtaposition
of juxtaposition of her environment, and then you're like, ooh, like Josh said, you're like, ooh, I expect it to be darker. Honestly, I think it's much less darker than the Absolute
Batman,
Batman.
Sure.
And I got a feeling it's probably gonna be less darker than the Absolute Superman, which I haven't cracked open yet. But it does feel that it does, the white never looks whiter when it's next to black. Black never looks black. It feels like that is kind of for me, that was what I got out of this reading. And it really made me appreciate the Wonder Woman character more, because Josh, here is something that I found surprisingly therapeutic for me in kind of a world that we live in today, where it always feels like these gray characters and at best gray leaders, of our societies, is to have someone who's purely good. And I want to know, well, I'll let you respond to this first before I ask you your question on there. But to me, I was surprised that I gravitated to what might seem hokey or very golden age-esque and like archaic and outdated. But when put into this comic and based on some of the stuff, we just came off this big Western run where there's all these great characters. It just felt nice to read a character who's just like, no, like I'm good. I speak good things and I do good actions. And that is the thrust of me. There is no hidden agenda. There is no dark underbelly. It is, at this point, at least 7 issues in, just an absolute good character.
Yeah. And I'm curious about the idea of like, it is the experiment with absolute, because having the ability to just read, a run at a time instead of having to wait half a year to figure out like, what are they trying to say, right? As we go through 6-7 issues of this. I wonder if like just reading it in the dump like this, like having it all thrust upon you makes it easier to go like, oh, what they're trying to say is like the core of these characters doesn't change if the circumstances around them change, right? The core of Batman's character is he wants to protect Gotham. He wants to protect the people who didn't protect him. Now, every read on Batman, sometimes he's super violent. I mean, you can go, Dark Knight Returns is brutal, right? So I can't say that absolute Batman is any more vengeful than some of the other versions of Batman throughout the years, but the circumstance and his circumstance, not a billionaire, not a trust fund kid. Those outside forces didn't change his desire and his want to protect Gotham. The outside factors for Wonder Woman in this absolute story have not changed her core character of love and compassion and protection. And
it's aesthetics and window dressing. Yeah.
Right. And but I wonder, like, is the deeper meaning that the core of these characters doesn't change, even if, like you mentioned earlier, the butterfly effect, right? This small thing at the beginning that you think should blow everything off course changes everything around the character, but the character's core being is still there. I mean, I like I said, I only read the first issue of Superman, so I can't speak to that one. But I'm curious if that's what we're going for here. Or maybe that's just the read for these 2 issues, right? Maybe we're just, or these 2 volumes, maybe we're just going too far afield for it. But I agree with you. I think the positivity of Wonder Woman shines so much brighter in sort of this dour hellscape that she finds herself in, right?
Yeah. Can I tell you what really stuck out to me was the dialogue, the way Wonder Woman spoke in a crisis. It's just like, oh, can we get leaders like this who are just like, so can I give you an example? Like at one point, she's fighting this giant Hydra creature. It's got a name, the Tesser something creature, Tesseract. We're so bad. We could literally look in the book right here. And these, she basically tells like the city, like, hey, listen, it's going to do like a siren song. You're all going to go crazy. You need to get out of here. And these Air Force pilots start bombing this thing. And she flies up and she stops the U.S. Or like the Air Force missiles. And she like talks to the pilot as she's like, hey, can you do me a favor? I understand why you're doing that, but could you not do that, please? And it's just the way she talks to people in a crisis, or when she's trying to get ingredients for her spells and she kind of busts her way into this thing and is taking a lot of this merchandise. She's like, hey, I really appreciate this. Hey, you're really good at what you're doing. And actually you're a key factor in this. And I really appreciate you a lot. Or just saying what she can do and what she can't do. And and being very honest about the situation. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you're going to be of no help to me, but I know you want to help, and that's really noble. However, I'm going to need you to do this.
Right.
And I just love the
calmly straightforward
the dialogue
and appreciative,
because
right?
At first it seemed really hokey, like someone, like I said, Golden Age, where it's like, I'm here to save the day, I appreciate you, but please step aside. But you're like, no, I think it's just, I don't know, because you just don't hear it in every day very much, that like, this is great leadership language and great like how to talk in a crisis language.
That month, the tetracide, because it kills in 4 ways, right? The death of fear, the death of mind, the death of body, the death of soul. She's like, the death of soul is bad. You don't want to get there.
And she's like, as you can imagine, the death of soul is as bad as it sounds.
And the death of soul, I don't want to be dramatic, but the people who are crushed to death in the race to the tetracide's maw, they'll be the lucky ones. And I'm like, ooh, it's this really, I love, so I think, like I said, my big two kind of experiences with Wonder Woman is that New 52 run and this run, and both of those lean heavily into, Greek mythology. And I don't know if this is something in Greek myth or not, or if it's this combination of, something from Greek myth and we've renamed or whatever it is. But I really do love the idea of Wonder Woman battling these otherworldly, demon-y, like, I think that's the one thing that this does really interesting, is like the monsters, the piece of it, are darker, and she gets to be even more bright against the hell monsters, against the tetracide, right? Like this monster that kills in 4 ways, and I really thought that contrast is really interesting, and I really dug what this has to say about her as a character and the core of what Wonder Woman is. And plus, at one point, she has a robot arm, right? Like there's so many. You may not have liked, so Travis Rats, you may not like the giant sword, which is weird to me because you grew up in Japan. And if the Japanese love anything, it's anime with giant freaking swords. It's
spiky hair and giant
spiky hair and giant swords. And maybe it's because you didn't have a PlayStation 1 to play Final Fantasy 7 on. But when she's got that giant sword, it's like, oh my gosh, it's Cloud's sword. Wow. It was a very kind of cool thing. But I'm a sucker for kaiju and like a fantasy, right? So that big sword was great. Thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
So
Metal Murder Falcon.
let's talk a little bit about kind of
well, can I before you ask your question, I want to, something else is brought up too. This book brought up several things to me when I was reading it. I think Wonder Woman is an interesting character that I never thought about before, but this made me think about it. Especially in the last 2 issues of this, which are slightly different. The first 5 issues are flashbacks to hell and Wonder Woman in Gateway
fighting
City,
the tetracide, right? Yeah,
tetracide. The last 2, it's like we go to Hades and we're in the underworld. There's a lot more Greek myths in there, and I was like, wow, Wonder Woman really is poised out of all the superheroes from all major labels to really put into conversation the idea that superhero characters of today will be the myths and legends in possibly, another 1,000 years, right? These characters that keep getting recycled all over and over again and maintain their cores. So I really do like, I'm sure that there are other Wonder Woman runs, like maybe the ones you were talking about, who put that into conversation a little bit more in okay, here we have a modern day god in conversation with these mythological gods, and where do they intersect and where do they divide, and how do they uncover like the morals and beliefs of the centuries in which they are representing. So I was like, oh, I wonder if the last 2 issues made me think maybe this as we go on further, because I think there's like 14 issues or something of this book. It's been out for like over a year. If that is something they dive further into.
Yeah, so I think we get to that second part, and I think this is part of what I miss in comics a little bit right now, is that we write for the trade, right? So I really did enjoy those, what is it, 3 issues in the back half of the book, where it's about how there's one issue about how she got Pegasus, and about like it leans really high on that Greek mythology, and then there's
that was dope, the whole Prometheus thing, where she's like, and again she uses his kindness. She's like, hey, I'm sorry, hey Prometheus, sorry to interrupt, didn't mean to interrupt your moping, but just letting you know, like, if it's okay with you, can I have some of your blood?
And then the next one being that idea of like her telling her the story of this myth of like the princess and the king, and about how as a child she's like, that princess is making the wrong choice, I don't like it, but you know, Cersei's like, well, you don't know what choice she made, we don't know, so you get to decide who the princess is.
I loved it.
Right?
What a great storytelling. Yeah,
I thought that was a great like tool to show you what kind of person she is, where you know, she's got the tiger gal, right, in the headlock. And she's like, don't make me do this. But if you make me do this, if you make me kill this person, I don't want to, but if you make me kill this person, I am like, it's on.
We got beef.
Right?
We got beef.
We got some serious stuff. And then she prays the gods about getting justice. And then she shows this absolute power, right? No pun intended. And he's like, how dare you? And he's like, look, I'm not going to use this right now, but I'm letting you know I can use this. Yeah. And I will if I have to, right? And so that show of force, but knowing to pull back and not going all out, not guns a-blazing in it, but just showing that you have strength and that there are other ways to solve these issues without having to go full on, scorched earth. So
and not whinging or being all like depressed about the sacrifices you have to make to do good in the world.
Right.
Like, I gave up my arm for this. No, it's just like,
yeah, of course. And instead of like, I had to give up my arm, and it's like, of course I gave up my arm. That's what you do. Right. Yeah. Like, sacrifice is how you protect and you save. And I thought it was just great storytelling. If I had to, so we've read Batman. Noble. We've read Batman and we read this. And I got to tell you, although Batman was dope, right? And that's the word I can use for it. I was like, dude, whoa, that's like my reaction to it. This one, I was like, that's a good story. Like, that is, there's some good storytelling. This one, it felt good, Travis Ratz. I think you mentioned
super
it earlier.
Hard. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier, like, it's like reading something like this in the current state of reality. And hearing someone lead and hearing someone make sacrifice and protect in the way that Wonder Woman does in this book, you're like, man, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be right. Like,
it sounds corny. It kind of makes you be like, well, how can I be more like Wonder Woman? Like, how can I change just even my language, how I talk in a crisis, how I talk when things are on there. And I think I'm hoping. We always say that the issue of Superman is like, one, his unlimited power, which Wonder Woman has as well, but also like his do-gooder kind of one-dimensional nature. And it can be hard to write engaging stories with quote unquote, like this is in like one-dimensional characters, right? Yeah. Truth, justice, and the American way type of thing on there. And so anytime we go into like reading a Superman or a Wonder Woman or one of these, tentpole holier than thou characters, there's always a sense of like, okay, like I'm guessing there's going to be a gimmick that's going to get me into the story. And there was, I guess the gimmick is that she's in hell in here. I didn't find that as, I guess that is a gimmick. And I guess it did work on me because I paid a little extra, maybe more attention to the character of Wonder Woman and who she is, because I was trying to to soundboard it against what I had already known and assumed about her. So maybe because I was trying to find out what had changed, I paid more attention to what it had always been.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed this take on it. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about the overall art of this, right? So let's talk a little bit about, we've got two main artists on here. It feels like, the artist who does the last books, the coloring feels very different from the issue about Prometheus to the other ones, right? Because I think it feels like there's no colorist listed on the Lady or the Tiger part, or no, I'm sorry, there's no color. Yeah, the Lady or the Tiger part 1, where she's getting the axe. There doesn't seem to be an artist listed on it or a colorist on it. So it feels like Matthias colored it himself. So that it looks different than that last one. And I think that really has to do with colors. But the first artist on here, those first issues, let's talk about that. Hayden Sherman and this art we have on here. It's not it's not House at all. It's very indie feeling. And it feels a little bit like that Supergirl book, Woman of Tomorrow, right? Not in the way that the art seems the same, but it has this sort of an indie quality to it. I don't know how else to say it. And this, I absolutely loved it. I love that sort of like that line between cartoon and realism that we're getting in this, where you have these very, like the cherubic Wonder Woman baby, which looks great. Right. But then also you're getting this wild monster in, these, I can't explain it, but I really did enjoy the art style on this. It made it feel fresh, right? Because it wasn't that same old House style. It didn't feel like, what I expect from, okay, here's a big 2 book. Here's what it look, like here's a DC Trinity book. It's going to have this regular artist on it that, you know what I mean? And it felt different in a good way, to kind of set a different tone for it.
Yeah, it's that sense of when you do kind of cartooning like this, there is a beautiful inconsistency in the consistency, not in like an indie or upcoming way, but just in the sense of like you're going to get a lot of different aspects of Wonder Woman. You're going to get the action shot, the glamour shot, cartoons with the rosy cheeks, and then you're gonna get the more kind of grotesque, like, oh, this is kind of a little funky in the action that she's in on there. And it allows, I think the cartooning allows for more multi dimensions of Wonder Woman to come out, where you're not just looking at like, oh, Wonder Woman looks good. It's a sense of like, let's take that away, the sense of the glossy digital House style that, or even people like in like a image way where they might use like live models for some of that 90s stuff on there. And it really lets you focus on the character of Wonder Woman and not like the aesthetics of Wonder Woman, not like this is what Wonder Woman looks like. And it allows for more of those magical elements, like whether it be the kaijus or the arm or even the sword. I don't think that sword would have, it kind of rubbed me a little bit off, but it would have rubbed me off. It would have been a little bit more out of place, I think, off-putting if it was in a different art style. This allowed me to kind of be like, oh yeah, we're in a cartoon world.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic of it, right? Like if you like, that's, I mean, Thundercats, Silverhawks, like that's what it, like to me, that's what it feels like, G.I. Joe-ish, right? But like this Wonder Woman aesthetic of it, and I really did. The monster designs were great. The Tetracide with all the tentacles coming out of the inside, the giant maw on the first big monster she fights, very cool. I thought it gets comic booky in the right places, right? She goes to this place where the two witches are, who are selling like herbs and like the apothecary shop. and one of them's kind of running around the shop, and you get the little dotted lines to show where she's kind of zipping around the store. There's that, that very comic booky. There's the scene where the blade just gets giant, and she cuts the tetracide not in half, but
no, you think at first
she's like, dang it, I missed, right? Like she cuts it a third of it off. But you get like the insides, and it looks funky, but it's still cartoony. There's something about the art in here where there's a lot of lines, a lot of like texture in the lines on the land, in the woodwork when you see when you see the artist draw wood, in the paneling, in the costuming. There's a lot of these extra lines in it. Oftentimes Wonder Woman's costume, to show texture, has these kind of, they're not quite hatch marks on it, but lines on it that aren't like, if in the real world you wouldn't draw a bunch of lines on it, but because this is cartooning, you're like, oh, that's to show me the texture of it. That's to kind of show me the extreme nature of this, or to show that. I really, really dug the art on this. I thought it was a ton of fun. The colors are great, but we know it's Jordie Bellaire. Man. She can do no wrong when she colors a book.
The other couple issues kind of reminded me a little bit in the coloring and style, like a Greg Capullo when he was doing Spawn.
Yeah.
It feels real Spawn-esque. Like the way they do the female characters and the curls and the hair and the eyes.
Yes.
It felt like some runs on Spawn. Maybe I'm thinking more of some McFarlane stuff, but it feels like Capullo.
No, it's very Capullo. I think a little better facial work than Capullo does. But,
right.
But I think those curls are very what's the angel on in Spawn? No, is it Angelica?
Oh, Angelica.
Yeah, the big hair. That Wonder Woman's hair in some of those scenes. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's very big in Capullo. Like he would draw those.
I gotta tell you, that Basilisk though is just beautiful.
Oh yeah,
like even like there's some. I don't know if it's my favorite type of coloring. I like Jordie Bellaire's coloring on the first ones.
Yeah,
but even in this with the non-colorist, when you look at how they do the light off that Basilisk and the coloring and the details of all its scales, it's just, I'm like, oh, it feels very Conan.
Yeah, both artists did a really good job. Like I said earlier, I do appreciate that. The second artist, the fill-in artist, is there to kind of tell you a different tale, that flashbacky tale. I appreciate that. Or I don't know. I haven't read past this, so I don't know if this is the artist who takes up the rest of the volume. I haven't looked, but I really did enjoy the art on this. Was fantastic. The coloring was great. The storytelling was very layered, and you don't always get that in a comic book. You don't always get that in a superhero comic book. But Kelly Thompson is a great writer. She writes good books. She writes good stuff, and this is no different from her. She's just
it's 5 issues battling one monster. Yes, there are flashbacks, but that's good comic book pacing, people. Yes. I talked about pacing in a lot of these last couple issues. I don't know what's going on out there in the comic book world with the trade thing, and it's like on here. I'm like, 1 battle, 5 issues, flashback, get some background into how we're handling this situation now, shows us how we kind of came up with in the past. It's great. We don't need like a. To be fair, I guess there's 2 villains because they have the little pterodactyl things and then the tetracide. But it was like, the Harbinger and then the main boss.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, and this was all, Lex Luthor was controlling the whole thing, and now we have 3 issues of Lex Luthor. No.
Yeah, I really did. I think that this felt like a great introduction to this world, this character, and these rules. Right.
Yeah.
If we're retelling you a tale and it's going to be a long form story, this was a great introduction. We learned who the character is. We learned the rules of the world, and we got how the world is, at least in a bite, how the world is reacting to her. I think I think you'll get more of that as the story goes on. Like, how does the world take a Wonder Woman in their world, right? But I think that this was a great introduction to bringing Wonder Woman into this new universe, right?
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Travis Ratz. We are 2 books into Absolute. We're about to hop into Absolute Superman. We know that there is an Absolute Martian Manhunter and an Absolute Green Lantern and an Absolute.
I did not know that there was an Absolute Green Lantern or a Flash. So new information to me.
Yes, there's a Flash, a Green Lantern, and a Martian Manhunter. Maybe there's an Aquaman. I don't know. We know that the Trinity is the 2 that we're for sure reading. My question to you is, if you could get an Absolute character in the DC universe that isn't one I just named, who would it be? It's got to be a weird character.
Can you ask me again after we get another one down there? Because once I can identify, if my theme thesis is correct, then I would like to apply it to who's. Yeah, I think I would. Do you have one in mind already?
Who's in your core? Yeah. No, not. I mean, yes. I mean, there are a couple DC characters that I absolutely love, and I'd be curious to see how that plays in this world. But it
sounds like Josh, you might be setting up a pitch club.
The problem is, that they're going to do every single freaking character in the world, but it does sound like I'm setting up a pitch club. So we might have to do some digging to see all of the Absolute series that are out, and then go, okay, what out of what's left, what would you pitch and what would you?
Because it is a fun idea to pitch, because really you're being like, it's the same character, but this is different in their background or upbringing that changes their world slightly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, it's like removing an element, inserting a different element in.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this is, we are kind of in this space between, as we're dipping our toe. We already dipped a toe. We're getting deeper into the pool of Absolute. We've got our swim trunks on. We've got a beer and a koozie
I have Absolute vodka.
Well, whatever.
I themed it out.
You did. That's good. I don't really like vodka, so I didn't go with it. But folks, you can find all of the episodes over at comicexposure.com or on your favorite podcast app, whatever that is. Write a review, rate it, all that good stuff. And you can find us on Instagram at Comic Exposure. Thank you for being with us and hanging out in this Absolute world. Travis Ratz and I will see you next trade.